and now my captains and scholars, the Allocution. Years ago, I used to work for the Armed Forces Radio and Television Network, and at that time, a co-worker of mine was very religious. She proudly called herself godly, and when she was angry, she would often say things like, "If I wasn't a Christian, blah, blah, blah," some mean and nasty thing. She attended church more than once a week, and her husband, her second husband, was actually a pastor. Now, one day she was in the office talking about her 9-year-old son. This is her son from her first marriage. He was rebelling, and he told her that he didn't believe in demons. She was outraged. So outraged that she brought this story of trauma into work with her. Yep, she let us all know about this heresy that her son was about to talk about these demons he didn't believe in. She was going to punish him severely if he didn't repent, and she was very serious. She was going to stop talking to him, and she was actually thinking about sending him away to an uncle. She was going to throw her kid out. Now, usually, I kept my mouth shut in these types of things, and I just would listen. But in this case, I felt compelled that maybe I should ask a question or say something. I was just compelled to be involved here. So I asked her if she believed in demons. She said, "Of course she does. They're all around us. They tempt us." Luckily, she said, "My parents are watching over me." So she was obviously safe. I then said, "Wait. Your parents can't be watching over you. Judgment Day hasn't come yet. Therefore, they haven't gone to heaven yet. Therefore, they can't be watching over you yet. That can't be true. Something's wrong here." She, believe it or not, agreed with me. She thought my logic was perfect and said, "Yes, you know what? You're right. Well, I'm sure I have a guardian angel that I know I have." I said, "Okay, great. Got it. Good for you." Now, I then asked her, "Well, wait a minute. Angels. Now, we know God created humans and angels. We know that. What are demons? Maybe your son is just confused. That could be the issue." She looked at me totally dumbfounded, quiet, and just looked at me and said nothing. And then she said, "You know what? I don't know what demons are." It's a great question. So what do you think she did? She called hubby the pastor. Of course she did. Called him up right there. Called him up right then and there after this conversation. Yes, this was not the best use of company time. So she asked him on the phone, "What are demons? How are they made?" What do you think the pastor said? He said, "They were already there. God made them." Great answer. And this was completely acceptable to her. And she confidently replied this information to me and smugly smiled. I said, "Great. Thank you." She actually thanked me, and she decided that the reason why her son was not believing in demons is because he was as confused as she was, and surely now he would come around. So, of course, she went home and explained this to him and figured, okay, it's all good. The next day she comes into work, and she is distraught. The info did not work, and her son were no longer talking. The son was now punished. He had to go to his room straight from school, no TV, no friends, just to his room. No fun until he repents and accepts demons as real. When she told me this, I asked, "What about church? Can he go there?" She said, "Of course he can go there. Absolutely." I said, "Great. I have a question, though. If he's fighting you on demons, what happens if he decides that he doesn't want to go to church now?" She looked at me with a rage that it's hard to describe. I literally had to back up because I was afraid she was going to hit me. I felt like she might strike me and result to violence that I would dare say something like that. But she was quiet. She looked at me, and she thought deeply. And then she said, "I will not have that kind of child in my house. I will throw him out." And she was serious. And he was 9. Obviously, the son at one point repented. Any smart kid would, believe it or not, right? He believed, he said it, and he accepted. Demons are real. Got it. Great. Mom is now happy, right? No. The relationship between them was never the same. I often chatted with her about him, just asking that kind of, how's he doing, stuff like that. And she was always somehow disappointed. He was just tainted somehow in her eyes. He just wasn't the true believer, the godly person that his stepfather was. He wasn't like the pastor. he was somehow tainted. That bond between mother and son was somehow cracked. All right. Why do I tell you this story? Why do you care? Because this shows the true power of religion. It can tear any bond apart. The bond between mother and child, the bond between husband and wife, the bond between anything. The bond between citizen and nation. Or any bond that you might think is important or critical or valuable. Religion can crack it. Nothing is more powerful. It's so often seen as a force only for good. Not that it can't be good. Of course it can be good. But it can also destroy just as easily as it can build. In fact, it's easier to destroy in general. Therefore, religion destroys easier than it builds. And the funny thing is, it doesn't have to have any logic or make any sense. It only has to have an emotional pull. That's all that's required to destroy a bond. That's all that's required to have a mother throw her son out of her house. That's all that's required to have someone who you think loves you turn on you. And remember, when someone who you believe is the same religion as you and they convert or turn, you're extra angry at them. You're extra angry. There's extra vitriol there. Because you know what? If you were always a non-believer or a heathen or an infidel or you name the bad word I'm going to call someone who doesn't believe what I believe, you're supposed to be that way. You're just bad in general. But when you were one of mine and you left me, oh, that's betrayal. That's betrayal, and I've got extra meanness for you. So if we have a bond and you break that religious bond, man, am I angry. Now you might say, wait a minute. Larry, is this story relevant? Is it? Yeah, it is. Because the mom didn't even know what a demon was. She didn't even know what it was. She didn't know if she should believe it at all. She didn't know. But if her son did announce that he believed, she wouldn't have that kind of child. Well, this is just anecdotal, right? No. You know this to be true because you've seen it happen. Whatever religion you are or whatever people you hang around with, you've seen this type of thing happen. I know you have. In fact, you've probably been part of it somehow, either for or against, because it's a normal part of the human experience. The power of religion to both control and destroy is the most powerful in the world. And the people who are powerful, they've always known that. Rich?
Absolutely true. It's one, I'm just dumbstruck at like how readily she was able to more or less cast that child out in her own mind over something she didn't even fully understand.
And the great part is she actually decided to badmouth her son in front of others. Not even just keeping it inside and saying, oh, no, my son and I are having problems. Not that. But she literally would degrade him in front of others, assuming that everyone outside would understand her plight and would, of course, pick religion over your child. Wouldn't everybody? Of course you would. There was no part of her brain that said, you know what, maybe this is wrong. Maybe when I say this in front of all my coworkers, when I air my dirty laundry in front of all my coworkers, maybe one of them will say that I'm wrong. Maybe one of them will say, you're nuts. That didn't even come into her head. In fact, as I was talking to her, just trying to probe her from almost like a psychological standpoint, she thought I was on her side. She completely thought I was helping her out. Wow, this guy Larry's hooking me up. Give me this great ammo I can now use to get my son back to God. Look how lucky I am to have him around.
It's actually, you know, you told me the story, and I have to say I may have a slightly different take on it.
Please, go ahead.
That's exactly what the Abrahamic God commands. I mean, there's a lot of people who believe in a touchy-feely Jesus, God is love. But really, if you actually read the Bible...
Oh, that's a mistake. Don't do that. Go ahead.
If you actually read the Bible, you know, the Abrahamic God is that petty. You know?
Explain what the Abrahamic God means.
Well, just take the God of the Old Testament and, you know, what St. Paul alludes to in his epistles. You know, the God is... You know, God casts out demons. God believes in demons. God created evil there to tempt you.
So you're saying the Abrahamic God, you mean basically those who follow something like Islam, Christianity, Judaism.
Exactly.
That's Islam. Got
Exactly.
it. Good.
It all grows out of that tradition that your child can be evil, your child can be possessed, and your child, because he is possessed, he's ungodly, therefore it's okay to cast him out.
Maybe she was right after all. So my loyal audience member, tell me what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Should I have helped her get her son back to Jesus? Let me know, 877-480-4120, or email me at talk@ivorytowerradio.com.